Hello, Year 6. Welcome to your final week of home learning, and it's Monday, so we're going to get started with our big read. As ever, we're going to take a bit of a look at the Walt and just make sure that we're happy with everything in the Walt and the Wilf. Walt's fairly straightforward. It's to answer a range of reading questions. So what sort of range are we going to be looking at then? So what I'll be looking for is that you're showing a clear understanding of how to define keywords from a text. We'll talk about how to do that in a moment. How you infer feelings from language and actions. Okay, bit of inference there. Talk about that as well in a second. And then finally, how you support those opinions with evidence from the source material, in this case from the film Francis. So, reading comprehension then, something we are hopefully very familiar with, and it's made up of lots of different things. Really, really important this year of all years to make sure that we're super confident with our reading comprehension. And to do that, we need to be able to answer lots of different types of questions. One of the certain types of questions that we need to be able to answer is retrieval. Now, we practiced this last week. That is when there is an exact answer to be found in the source material, whether that is in the text, in a picture, or in the case of this week, in a video. And you just need to read or watch or listen really carefully to that source material and listen out for the answer. So for example, a really, really simple retrieval question might be, what is the name of the main character in the video? And of course, you don't need to apply your own opinion to that at all. The answer is Francis. We know that because not only is it the title of the film, it is used to describe her several times by the narrator. That is a retrieval question, when the answer is there and you just need to find it, just need to retrieve it, which is where the name comes from. Another type of comprehension question is a vocabulary style question. Now, if we think back to the Wilf, that was the first part of our Wilf today. That is when we are asked what a word from a text might mean. We're sometimes given options, sometimes we are just asked to explain it in our own words. Now, to do that, if you're in the classroom, we often use a dictionary. However, in an actual reading paper, you won't have that luxury. So you need to be able to use the context of the sentence to think, right, it's clearly being used in this sentence as, let's say, an adjective, or it's clearly being used as a noun. And if I look at what the sentence is about, if I look at the sentence before it and the sentence after it, then I think a good synonym that I could fit in that would still make sense in this sentence might be this word. So it's using that context to try and help us work it out. Obviously, you might be very lucky. You might just happen to know what the word means anyway, which is often the case. That's why it's really important that this year we really work towards building up your vocabularies. Another area of reading comprehension is chronology. So that is being able to take something that is out of sequence, so bits from a text that have been taken out of order, and put them back into the correct chronological order. A quick reminder, chronological order means time order. Chrono means time. Taken from, and this is a nice little flash forward to our ancient Greek topics after Christmas, taken from the word Kronos, who was the Greek Titan, an original god of time. So, chronology, that is putting things in their time order. What happened first, going through to what happened last. Another type of reading comprehension question is fact and opinion. Now, fact and opinion, we'd looked at a lesson on that last week, so you should all be pretty familiar with that. That is identifying whether something is purely true and inarguable, should I say, or whether it is somebody's opinion, what they think, which could be debated and is entirely subjective. And then finally, another thing we'll be looking at today is inference. Inference is when we are using those clues. The answer is not given for us in so many words. We actually have to find it, use our opinion, back it up with evidence, and kind of read between the lines. That's when we're being a reading detective. We're trying to pick up on those hints, those clues that the author has put in, often to do with how somebody's feeling or why someone has acted in a certain way. And we'll be looking at that a little bit today. So, Let's put some of those inference skills into practice then. Here is a picture from the video of Francis. Now, at this point in the video, and looking at this picture, how would you say Francis was feeling? I'm going to give you a moment where I'm not going to say anything for you to think about that. As well as thinking about how you think she's feeling, what evidence would you give me to support that opinion? I'll then talk you through what I think and what evidence I've got to think about it. But have a bit of a go. Think about it, maybe say it out loud. If you've got your parents there with you or a sibling, or if you've got someone you can speak to about it, tell them what you think Francis is feeling at this point and why you think she's feeling that way. And see if they agree. I'll get back to you with my answer in a moment. Have a bit of a think. Okay, hopefully you've had a moment to have a bit of a think. If you didn't have time, pause the video now and just explain it to whoever you're with, or write it down, or just think it through in your head. I personally, for my opinion, I think at this point, and quite clearly in this picture, Francis is scared. That's the emotion I think Francis is feeling. And I'll now give you my evidence as to why. Because when we're talking about inference, it's okay to give your opinion. That might even get you 1 mark. But inference questions are normally 3 mark or more questions, which means that at least 2 of the marks are going to go on giving your evidence. They're not just going to go on giving your opinion. So my evidence would be, when I've had a real think about it and I've used those detective clues, being that reading detective, my evidence would be the fact she's gripping, clenching her fists, clenching onto the oar of the boat. We tend to grip and clench and hold things tightly the more nervous we get. So I would back up her feeling scared and nervous by saying she's clenching her hands around the oar of the boat. The fact she's holding an oar, some kind of defensive weapon, she feels like she needs to defend herself. More evidence that she's scared. Clenching her jaw. She's not smiling. She's also not pulling a sad face, but she's sort of clenching those teeth. She's clearly very nervous, very scared. The way that she's looking out the corners of her eyes, and her eyes have gone wider, good indication that she's clearly quite scared. And finally, the furrowing of her eyebrows, that sort of scrunching of the forehead, a sign of worry, a sign of fear. So I could give all of those bits. So if this was a 3-mark question, I could say, in my opinion, Francis is scared and nervous. I think this because she is, and then I could list 2 or 3, or maybe even all 5 of those things. And I could pretty much guarantee that I'd be getting the full marks for that question. Okay. You've got a couple of different questions today. We're just going to have a quick look at them, and I'm just going to talk you through them. Obviously, and unsurprisingly, I won't be giving you any answers, just making sure we're aware of what type of questions these all are. Okay, your first question is a vocabulary question, and I've quoted the beginning of this story as told to us by the narrator. Francis was 17 at the time, black-haired and with a reckless nature, determined always to leave the well-trodden path, to break new ground and be alone. So that's the first description that we get. So based on those words, what do you think the best synonym for Francis is? What's the best describing word for Francis? Is it mean? Is it rogue? Is it friendly? Is it lonely? I'll leave that one up to you to decide. I've highlighted in red on here, which I've not done in your PDF. I've highlighted the key bits that I think you need to think about when deciding which word best describes the character of Francis. So the first question is a vocabulary one. The second question is an inference one. So there's a statement there. Before she even reaches the rowing boat, Francis is already scared. Do you agree with this statement? Give evidence from the video. Well, I've put you a picture on, and it's on your PDF as well, that shows Francis before she gets to the boat. Now, we did a moment ago on the video, I talked about how to give evidence for an opinion. So I would expect you to be doing the same. I'd like your opinion on whether or not that statement is, well, whether you agree with that statement. Then I'd like at least 2 bits of evidence for your opinion. When you've done that, we move on to a chronology question. We talked about chronology, that word meaning putting them in order from most recent to least recent. So you're going to start with what happened first, and I've already done that for you. Frances leaves her tent. I put a 1 next to that. What you'll do is you'll then have a 2, a 3, a 4, a 5, and a 6. And they will be going from what happened first through to what happened last. Nice and simple, that one. Just make sure you think about it carefully. Maybe refer back, watch the video again, make sure that you're happy with your answer. And you've then got 2 questions that are both inference questions. The first one, light is used as a metaphor for hope in this story. Do you agree or disagree? Give evidence. And then how are music and sound used to build tension in the video? That one's not so much inference. That's more just a discursive, discussion style question. What you think? So they are your questions today. Make sure you're taking your time with those and thinking them through as carefully as you can. As always, when you've done, send those through to either myself if you're in Cyprus or to Miss Barrett if you're in Banyan. We look forward to seeing what you've got to say about those questions. Best of luck, and I'll be with you again when you finish that for your English lesson. But for now, that's everything from me, and I'll speak to you again soon. Goodbye.